If anyone had told me that I would one day witness a story that would shake the entire district of Awele, I would have laughed. But I, Mama Jeto, who sells roasted maize beside the motor park in Okuta, saw it with my 2 eyes and can swear on my late husband's grave that everything I'm about to tell you is true. It all started with a girl named Awele. She was the daughter of a palm wine tapper who died after falling from an iroko tree. Her mother, Ngozi, used to fry akara by the village square, but age and arthritis had slowed her down. Awele was only 16 when her father died, and from then, life took a sharp turn. They lived in a one-room mud house at the edge of Okuta, near the stream. Awele was a quiet girl with long legs, sharp eyes, and a voice that was as soft as orji soup on a cold morning. She used to fetch water for many elders in the village for coins, sweep the church compound, and wash clothes for the headmaster's wife. Everyone knew her to be respectful and hardworking, not the kind of girl to chase men or start trouble. It was during the time of the governor's annual visit to Okuta, part of his so-called rural development tour, that everything changed. You see, every year, the governor and his entourage would visit Okuta, smile for cameras, commission half-built boreholes, and promise roads that never came. That year, I remember, the local council chairman wanted everything to be perfect. He told the head of protocol to hire local girls to clean the guest house where the governor and his wife would stay for one night. That was how Awele got the job. She was recommended by Mama Ebiop, the women's leader, who told the organizers, "Give that girl the job, she's clean, quiet, and needs the money." The guest house had never seen such shine before. Awele scrubbed the toilets till they sparkled, arranged fresh flowers from the bishop's garden, and even added drops of lemon water to the mop to make the room smell fresh. People said she worked like someone who had a vision. But that's Awele for you. If she's washing your shirt, it will come out newer than when you bought it. When the governor's convoy finally arrived, Okuta stood still. Sirens blared. Dust rose. The village square buzzed with soldiers and politicians. The governor's wife, Madam Felicia, stepped down from a black Prado in high heels that looked like weapons of war. She wore gold-rimmed glasses, a purple lace blouse, and a wrapper that probably cost more than the entire guest house. But what no one expected, not even the council chairman, was that Madam Felicia would notice Awele. I was standing by my maize stand, close to the guest house compound, when it happened. Awele had just stepped out with a metal bucket and a mop, wiping her forehead with the edge of her wrapper. The moment Madam Felicia saw her, she stopped walking. "Who is that girl?" she asked, her voice sharp like a teacher's cane point. "One of the aides stammered, "Cleaner, local cleaner." Madam Felicia said nothing for a moment. She just stared. And then she smiled, a slow, strange smile, and waved her closer. I saw Awele freeze. Did something no one in Okuta expected. She took Awele with her when the governor's convoy left the next morning like a goat that had heard the butcher's footsteps. She walked slowly to Madam Felicia, knelt down respectfully, and greeted her in perfect English, "Good afternoon, Ma." That was the beginning. From that day, Madam Felicia took an unusual interest in Awele. She said she liked her manners, her quietness, her honesty. She even gave her a brand new wrapper and a pair of sandals. Then Some villagers said it was a blessing. Others whispered different things, that the governor's wife might be looking for a young girl to train as a house help or companion. But the way Madam Felicia held Awele's hand that day, like someone holding something delicate and dear, I knew this was not just about cleaning. 2 weeks later, we heard that Awele had been enrolled in a finishing school in the city. A private one. With air conditioners and uniforms that came from England. People were shocked. Some were jealous. Her mother, Ngozi, started coming to church every Sunday in a new lace wrapper, her grey hair freshly plaited. She smiled more. She even bought a radio, but what no one knew, not even me at that time, was that the real story hadn't even begun. I remember the first time I visited Owerri, the capital. The cars moved like confused goats, the noise was something else, and everybody seemed to be in a hurry to go nowhere. But that was the life Awele entered when she left our village, Okuta. She had never even boarded a proper bus before that day, but now she was riding in convoys with tinted windows. Word reached us through a cousin of mine, who was working as a driver for one of the local commissioners. He said that Madam Felicia had not just taken Awele as a house girl, like we all assumed, no. She had brought the girl into her home like family. Gave her her own room with a fan, fed her at the same table with her daughters, and even paid for a private tutor to teach her English and etiquette. To outsiders, it looked like generosity. But those who live in the city, and who have eyes, said it was something else. You see, Madam Felicia had no children of her own, and from what I heard, doctors had confirmed her womb was like a locked gate. She and the governor had been married for over 15 years, and though she tried to smile at public events, everyone knew she cried at night. In the village, people would say, even gold has its burden. That was Madam Felicia's burden, no air. Some said that when she saw Awele that day in Okuta, her quietness, her beauty, her calm, she saw the daughter she never had. Others said it was something deeper, something spiritual, but life in the city was not as smooth as it looked on the outside. The governor himself, Chief Boma Adigwe, was a man of great appetite. For food, for power, and for women. Even in Okuta, we had heard stories, how he changed side chicks like shirts, how he kept secret apartments in Port Harcourt. The only reason Madam Felicia's position remained untouched was because she was the daughter of a retired army general, and no one messed with that family. So, when Awele entered that house, young, innocent, beautiful, it was only a matter of time before trouble began. At first, the governor ignored her. He was hardly home anyway, always flying up and down for meetings. But as weeks passed and Awele began to blossom, even the house staff noticed the governor's eyes lingering too long. It started with small gifts, a pair of earrings here, a wristwatch there. Then he told Madam Felicia that he wanted Awele to help him with some foundation work at the office, saying she had a good head for organizing. By the third month, it had become a full-blown affair. Now, I must pause here to tell you something. In our culture, it is said that when the river that feeds you begins to flood your compound, you must build a wall or drown. But Awele didn't know how to build such walls. She was just a village girl in a big house, where power moved like lightning. The affair was secret at first. But secrets in big houses have ears and mouths. The cook saw things. The driver overheard whispers. And the day the governor returned from Abuja and took Awele shopping alone, leaving Madam Felicia behind, the story leaked. The newspapers didn't carry it, of course. But in the political circles of Owerri, everyone knew. The governor is sleeping with his wife's village girl. That was the whisper in the air. Madam Felicia found out from her own cousin, who worked as a clerk at the State Assembly. They said the walls of the governor's mansion shook that night. She smashed a mirror. Fainted. Prayed. Cursed. But what she did next shocked even the household staff. She called Awele into her room the next morning. No shouting. No slapping. She sat her down, looked her in the eye, and said, "You are pregnant, aren't you?" Awele didn't speak. Her hands shook. Her eyes welled with tears. That was when the first slap landed, not because she was pregnant, but because she didn't deny it. The governor, instead of denying or apologizing, defended Awele. Said she was young and vulnerable. Said it was a mistake but a blessing in disguise. Said God had finally given him a child. Can you imagine? Madam Felicia, a woman who had stood beside him for years, through campaigns, scandals, and miscarriages, was now being replaced by a cleaner's daughter from Okuta. She didn't cry in public. No. She was a general's daughter, but the next morning, Awele's belongings were thrown out of the governor's house. Just like that, some said the governor tried to stop it. Others said he let it happen so as not to provoke his wife further, but the real twist was this: Madam Felicia wasn't finished. She didn't just throw Awele out. She sent people after her. Political dogs. People who make problems disappear. She wanted the girl silenced, erased, for good, but what she didn't expect was that Awele had already gone back to Okuta, to her mother, carrying a baby that carried the blood of the state's most powerful man. And that's where the story came back to us. That's where I, Mama Jeto, saw it all with my own eyes, because one evening, I was packing up my maize stand when a taxi stopped by the stream, and out came Awele, her belly swollen, her face pale, and her eyes holding the sorrow of 100 storms. She was no longer the quiet village girl who mopped the governor's floors. She was something else now, a woman caught between power, shame, and a secret that could shake the whole of Imo State. I was there the day she returned. Awele. She came in a dusty taxi, wearing the same wrapper she had taken to Owerri, though it barely covered her big stomach. Her eyes, oh, her eyes, they were not the same. That light she used to carry, like morning dew on mango leaves, had been replaced with a tiredness far beyond her years. She walked slowly through the market square, past people who stared but dared not speak. She passed the compound of Elder Ogbonna, the village herbalist, and crossed into the narrow path that led to her mother's hut. I stood by my maize stand, holding my breath, watching her disappear into the shadows of the evening. Nobody said a word, but that night, Okuta was awake. From the women fetching water at the stream to the old men playing draft under the iroko tree, everyone was whispering, Awele is back. She is carrying the governor's child. They say Madam Felicia sent boys after her. Why did she come back to this poor village? And I, Mama Jeto, I knew the answer, because there is only one place a wounded animal returns to, home. Her mother, Mama Nidiameka, had grown lean from grief. She'd barely eaten for weeks after Awele left. Now, seeing her daughter return with a baby growing in her, she fell to her knees and began to wail, not for shame, no, but for mercy. That's how mothers in our land cry when joy and sorrow arrive on the same day. Awele didn't speak much those first few days. She mostly sat under the mango tree behind their hut, drinking pap and rubbing her stomach. The women of the village, some mocked her quietly, others brought food. But it was clear, something had changed in her. She wasn't just a village girl anymore. She had lived among the powerful. She had tasted what most of us only heard on radio. Then, one morning, I think it was a Tuesday, a black Prado jeep rode into Okuta. Clean like a newly washed pot. It stopped right in front of the church, and two men stepped out. Well dressed. Sunglasses. Suit and tie in this heat. They asked for Awele. The whole village paused. Mama Nidiameka refused to let them into her compound at first. But they begged. They weren't thugs, they were lawyers, sent by the governor himself. They brought a message: the governor wishes to recognize the child. He wants to set up a trust fund. He will buy land for a house. He wants peace. Peace? What kind of peace comes after betrayal? After shame? But Awele, quiet as always, listened to them. Then she said only one thing: tell him I want nothing. Let the child carry my name. They left, but not before leaving behind an envelope filled with cash. Fat, crisp notes. We all knew what that meant: hush money. Money to erase a story. To buy silence. But Okuta doesn't forget. Especially not stories like this. Months passed. Awele gave birth on a Harmattan morning. I was there when the midwife came out, sweating and crying, holding a baby girl. Dark-skinned, with tiny fingers curled into fists, like she was already ready to fight the world. They named her Chimamanda, my God will not fail me. She looked nothing like the governor. But we knew even the way she cried, strong and demanding, made the old women say, oh, this one has come with fire in her bones. And Awele. She began to teach little children under the mango tree. Reading, writing, numbers. Parents brought yams and eggs as payment. She refused to live off the governor's money, but one day, a letter arrived from the capital. Madam Felicia had filed a petition in court, not to harm Awele, but to take the child. Yes. You heard me. She had used her influence to claim that the child, being the governor's, should be raised in proper custody. with wealth, with structure, with private school and foreign doctors. What a laugh. The woman who threw Awele into the streets now wanted her baby. That week, I saw a different Awele. Not quiet. Not soft. She became fire. She went to Awele with her child strapped on her back, barefoot if she had to. She stood in court with no lawyer, no makeup, and no fancy dress. But she stood, she told the judge the truth. In her soft, steady voice, she said, I do not want their money. I do not want their name. But I will not give up my child. The courtroom fell silent. It was the judge, a mother herself, who finally ruled, let the child remain with her mother. Let the governor visit if he wishes, but the child will carry her mother's name until she is of age. And that was it. The governor never came to Okuta again. But once every year, a gift box would arrive. Books, dresses, sweets from overseas. Awele never opened them. She gave them to the church or the orphans. She raised Chimamanda with nothing but strength, love, and truth. And today, that child, that daughter of a cleaner and a governor, is in university, studying law, writing poetry, telling stories of women like her mother. Women who rise, not because they are lifted, but because they refuse to stay down. And I, Mama Jeto, I tell this story not because I want sympathy, but because I saw it with my own eyes. And in a world where power crushes the weak, Awele stood tall and won.